And we're live.
We are live.
I got a new haircut, by the way. So
I see it. Fresh and
it's so
clean, bro.
so
Fresh and
fresh,
clean.
so clean. Hence no beanie. Um, we are live, and we are
Mm-hmm.
live in two different places
We sure
because
are.
we have not one, but we have two hosts of the Catch Up Podcast right now. First time in a couple weeks. And Denison, let
hmm
me just speak on behalf of the entire Catch Up family. We're glad to have you back.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to be back. I do apologize for my absence. It's been crazy 2 weeks. So
No, it's understandable, man, without a doubt. Um, But yes, and we all have those as well, every single one of us, so we know what's up. Um, and I'm gonna hit record over here before I forget to do it again. Perfect. So yeah, we're glad to have you back. And we got a good discussion lined up for this one. But you know what I want
we
to do
do.
before
Mm.
I made some updates to the store while you were gone.
Oh,
We got all
okay.
new products, and I just want people to know about them because I don't want them to miss the opportunity for these good, clean products. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We made a sale last night.
Oh man, that's what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
that's what I'm saying. We got the "We'll catch up with you next time" T-shirt.
Mm-hmm. That's a dope one right there. I love it.
Yeah, and by the way, available in multiple colors, not just what you see here. Multiple,
Mm-hmm.
multiple colors. And I want to emphasize too, everything here is unisex. Hence why you see Homegirl here rocking the Join the Discussion unisex T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Not influenced at all by the Supreme T-shirts. uh, and this Join the Discussion unisex hoodie, which you
mm-hmm.
probably don't like because it's cold. And here, after much ado, is the "Let's Go Ahead and Get Into It" T-shirt
Oh man.
right here. So those are really the new additions. We got the
Mm-hmm.
hat, we got the ketchup shirt, the hoodie, the beanie, and the long sleeve. Now, here's the thing about the long sleeve and
Mm.
these phone cases in this. Now we still have these. If you're interested, we got cartoon us right
Mm-hmm.
here. Cartoon neck gator if you're wanting to protect your breath. Um, the thing, the thing about these, it shows the stock. Now, when I was going through our inventory on Printful, which is who we work with for this,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it said all of these were out of stock, but you can see here it shows that they're in stock. So I need to verify this. If any of you try to buy these things and it doesn't work out, please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of it with the phone cases is probably just because these are dated phone cases now and they need to be
Mm-hmm.
updated. But for the mug specifically and this long sleeve t-shirt, if you have any trouble, please let us know and we'll get that fixed. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, these are the new right here. We'll catch up with you next time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and get into it. My personal favorite. And these join the discussion shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And hoodies.
and hoodie. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we want you guys to check all that out. It is linked wherever you're listening and wherever you're watching. Thanks to a great link we have called Linktree. It
Mm-hmm.
takes you to everywhere that you would need for our show. So
Everywhere and anywhere.
everywhere and anywhere. So I wanted to point that out off the bat. But next, I want to get into our topics, man.
Mm-hmm.
So let's tell people what we're talking about. Yeah. Number
Yeah.
one, um, continuing with our focus on AI and the difference that that makes in our world already. It's something that this honestly may mark a year of consistent conversation about AI. It was
Yeah,
not
I think
too,
so.
yeah, I mean, it was not too long after this, if not this exact time when ChatGPT came out a year ago. Um, just kind of wild. But we've wanted to focus on it because two reasons. We're very interested in it. And then two, I know for me this has been a huge benefit. We hope for you as well gain this information syndicated, um, and broken down, rather than hearing the horror stories you hear on the news or the concerns of people who don't understand this type of technology. It's really been beneficial for us. We hope it's beneficial for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And with that said, the president did something. Now I know Denison wasn't here for this one, but we shared a former Google developer's concerns about the growth of AI. Not again, not necessarily like Bard or a Chat GPT type of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
more foundational type of AI that could run an entire organization. His main concern, I remember him saying, is that it could build neural pathways as it learns through different inputs that would prevent other people from, um, or prevent even the developers from knowing what its new thought processes were or being able to manage it or shut it down. And so these are genuine concerns, absolutely,
Yeah.
and I think that they're fair to have, especially when you hear developers being the ones that are concerned about it.
Exactly.
Yes, and so this is really a follow up to that. President Biden issuing an executive order to protect the government from AI. Um, you love to hear it, but also you would love to hear protect the public.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, um, that'd be great. But uh, but yeah, so we're gonna break that down, what that means, what that looks like, those protections and such and so forth. Um, and then number two, these guys right here. Can we shift it? Come on. There we
Hey,
go.
almost.
A little bit.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Those guys right there, the Beatles, maybe you've heard of them. They released a new song today. Uh, and I like it a lot. I really do. And on top of that, it's something they started to work on in the 90s, but they couldn't finish because of how the demo they received from something John Lennon had written before he was killed, um, was mixed together. Well, AI has actually helped separate those two audio inputs, if you will, which was really just one. It was piano and vocal into one mic, and it's helped separate them into two different audio channels, which is mind blowing. So, we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more, man. So, let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, we're still rolling.
Just a teaser.
Oh, man, the light show going. Actually, you know what? We should bump out with.
Mm.
I don't know. It might not have time to load it in there. We're working on a new theme that we're really excited for you guys to hear.
We are. We are. It'll be great.
Yep. Um, we need to talk about that actually before we hop off.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really good. We're excited for you guys to hear it. It's such a vibe. So anyway, with that said, yes. Um, let me roll the actual intro for the audio folk. Three,
Mm-hmm.
2, 1. What's going on, everybody? I'm John,
And I'm Dennison.
and this is the catch up. All right. Before we get into our topic, I want to remind you guys the three. That's right. There's three of them. Best ways to support this show. Number one. You could have made three out of that, to be honest. Number one, leave us a rating review wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, there's a way to leave a review. And it helps us out no matter what. It helps us know what we're doing well. It helps us know what we can improve on. but also tells the algorithm to put us in front of more people, and that really helps as well. What is up, Darian? Notification gang, good to see you, man.
Hmm.
Number two, the second best way to support it. Oh, there you go. See, there you go. There's your two right there. Um, follow us on the live stream. We are live streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. We do it every Thursday night. And it allows us to have a direct conversation with you guys about whatever it is we're talking about. That's the biggest thing for us, is hearing your input in real time. And even if you can't jump on the live stream with us, we do want to hear your input regardless. Please let us know what your thoughts are. We're very thankful to be getting hundreds of plays a week
Hmm.
over on the live stream. And we want to hear your thoughts. We want to know what your thoughts are on the topics as we discuss them. So please let us know um, whether you're live with us or not. And then number three, there they are, three of them. So circling back to what we led off with here, if you want to support the show monetarily, we got some really cool merch. We want you to check it out. It's linked wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, and it gets directly to you. Like I said, we had an order last night. Thing's already shipped, man. It's on
Hmm.
the way.
Out there, ready for
It's coming, and they be printing it down in like Venezuela, I think. It's already on the way. I have to check. Some of them are in
'em.
Venezuela. I don't remember which one this one was. But anyway, so it comes quick, and we got some good merch, and we think you guys
Hmm.
will like it. So please check it out. Yeah. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into our topic here. um, again, so and I'll actually start this off by asking you in a question. So, not having the details laid out yet, which I will,
Hmm.
but for Joe Biden to issue an executive order to protect from possible AI risks, what would you say you would hope to see those protections include?
Um, I think one of the biggest things would be deep fakes, right? I think that's probably one of the biggest things that needs to be out there to protect not just the government but also, the United States citizens. Because as AI gets more and more advanced and is, like you kind of already talked about or hinted about, one of the topics that we're going to talk about, it's able to um do amazing things that, us as people probably aren't able to do, or it would take an insane amount of time to do. um Deepfakes is one of those, right? To be able to create not just video doubles but audio doubles of someone, and then having them be able to do like, uh, say or do like crazy things is incredibly um, concerning, especially when it comes to elections, right? Especially when it comes to um, like how the government operates and works and stuff like that. Like, I think that is probably one of the biggest things that I would want in there. Um, I think another big thing that I would like to see in that type of order would be maybe the restriction um, of how AI models are used. Um, I don't think that AI is far enough to say, fully automate certain things, but I think like when it comes to stuff with the defense of our country, I think I would want to make sure that there's someone who is in the seat, like the driver's seat of that. Like, I wouldn't want to have that whole thing automated. Sure, that could be a possible thing, but I wouldn't want that because I think that would be a very um a very big thing that can cause problems, right? Because um there are certain things that logic isn't going to correctly solve.
Yeah. Well, so you have, you know, I think I brought this up a few times, but you have certain movies like Eagle Eye that were way ahead of their time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what that essentially was a artificial intelligence that was protecting internal and external security for
Mm-hmm.
our country. But it again, it developed its own neural pathways and had its very own approach to doing that, and it was not
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, and that movie came out in '08 or '09, didn't resonate, but now it absolutely would, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
because of those things. And and to your point, what you're saying too, um, I think that is I'm still a fan of Stephen Colbert. I was watching the Late Show last night,
Mm-hmm.
and they talked about this executive order, and um, then used AI to have a fake conversation with a fake Joe Biden,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some parts it was very obvious it was fake, but there were other parts where out of context it could have been sold as being him,
Yeah.
you know and that was just for a comedic bit. And so if you took that from a malicious intent, um, it is a concern, and it's something that needs to be addressed without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a terrifying thought process that the information that you receive is not good, right? And making sure that we develop technologies um to be able to detect that kind of stuff is vital, I think, too, especially since we're going into an election year. um it, it would be very vital that stuff like that doesn't happen. um so
I agree. Well, let's dive in here. So this is being called a landmark executive order.
mm,
uh, so off the top, AI safety and security, new standards for the development and deployment of AI to ensure safety and security. This is all high level stuff, and of course we can jump in, but I just bullet pointed this out. So um, I think for that, I think it's just to make sure, maybe even address those concerns of what that developer was saying from Google,
hmm
of making sure that this is manageable, um, to ensure all that. So which we can, again, if you need me to dive in further on any one of these, let me know.
well, yeah, of course.
But developers of high risk AI systems are going to share safety test results and critical information with the US government. So
Mm.
that is what that would look like and include more. And the National Institute of Standards and Technology are going to develop rigorous standards for testing AI systems before public release. I'm not against that stuff
Yeah.
at all. Um, and unfortunately, and I think this goes back to something I mentioned on that episode a couple weeks back, but you and I have talked about too multiple times, is that if we left this up to Congress, if we left this up to the House and the Senate, it would never happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it would take too long.
Yeah, it would. So the executive order is the way to go, and I don't think there's anything against it. In fact, now the House and the Senate are both debating bills that would uh, go along with this, right? So
Hmm.
it took this executive order. Um, I think that that's a good move and a solid way to go, um, because we've seen what has happened with social media without that. You know,
Yeah, exactly. Without those guardrails, because that's all we're trying to get, right? We're just trying to
yeah,
get those guardrails in place because
right.
it it matters. It matters, and it makes a huge difference. Like,
Hmm.
we
Now,
don't want
yes,
it to be the wild wild west.
you don't, and so um, largely because that movie's not that great once you get older.
Hey man, Love Less was doing his stuff, man. It was
Loveless was trying, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Turned
He was
himself
going
into
for it.
a half spider.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but uh, no, so here's my thing, right? So these protections will inherently inhibit development of AI, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it will, because and with the good intention of safety first, obviously. But you know, ChatGPT right now at the
Hmm.
bottom, it normally tells you when its latest update is. I don't know. By the way, I'm not trying to claim I know this, but I don't know if this is because of this executive order. But now what it says is ChatGPT can make mistakes, verify important information. You know what I mean?
Mm,
That's new. Normally, it
interesting.
just tells you when the latest update was.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that is
And
interesting. More of
yeah,
that warning.
yeah. And I have a very long thread with ChatGPT that has a lot of different information in it.
Hmm.
And what I remember is that thread used to maintain in its memory the whole time. But now, if you log out or if you refresh the page, it will only go back as far as the last thing that you had interacted with it in that thread. Even if that thread is 1,000 messages long, if you refresh it, it will only go back to the last time you refreshed.
Oh, that's such a limiting factor.
It is, and I think it does it because of these type of stipulations now,
Yeah, I could see
so it
it.
doesn't carry too much personal information and all that kind of stuff, right?
Hmm. I could see
Yeah,
it. I mean, it kind of it's interesting because it does make me wonder, like, what these type of rulings will be doing to what we talked about, a few weeks back with the AI that Facebook is using, right? Or is developing
right.
with these personalities, right? With these celebrity personalities, because if you're in their case, right, if you're trying to create an AI personality off of an existing person, you'd want to make sure that those conversations flow and continue to have context within that. And I wonder if this will hamper some of that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Um, I would agree though that it probably will, um, and that's okay. I don't
Yeah.
think for the average person, do they need more than what ChatGPT or Bard offer? I don't think so. But also, AI, which I learned this through an interview I watched with Neil deGrasse Tyson, has been integral in developing medication to where it is now as far back as 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And it is largely why, which could you imagine if they shared this when people were freaking out about mRNA COVID vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
is largely why there's an mRNA COVID vaccine and why it was able to be developed so quick, you
Yeah.
know, because mRNA treatment was initially developed for cancer vaccines and stuff like that. And so they were able to adapt it to fit COVID. And yeah, I think that would have sent people over the hill.
Oh
If they
yeah.
thought,
It would have.
yeah. Which I'll double check my sourcing on that, but that is what I remember is it had a role and it continues to have a role in a lot of medical advancements, treatments, as it should. Um, and you see these things with overall scientific developments as well. I have no problem with that. But I do agree with you, Dennison. And again, we have a lot more to jump in here too, so I'll start flying through it. But I agree with you that there need to be things that protect us from AI integration into national security,
Mm-hmm.
government leadership, police, and our own private information as well. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And the media, so that we're not being misled down a road that AI has projected for us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
could see that.
and again, that's not to say that's necessarily a bad thing because take for example, um, I watched an interview the other day, also on 60 Minutes, where uh, the security leaders of five different countries, including ours, which was FBI Director Christopher
Mm.
Wray, he said that China is the biggest national security concern that we have ever faced, and it's because of their use of AI and
Mm.
things like that, which was interesting of him to say that. Um, I'm not here to argue that point one way or the other, but it just shows back in 2016, they were trying to manipulate our election through social media manipulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, if there was a way to block that and protect us from it so we develop our own opinions rather than those of rogue nations,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fantastic. You
Yeah.
know. So,
Oh,
um
so sorry. Yeah.
no, you're
No,
okay.
I think that's very true, and I think that's very important. That's the reason why I do enjoy I think these protections are so very important. Um, and I feel that we can benefit with a little bit of a slowing down um of the development of AI. I think there's a lot of really good benefits in that slowdown.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just make sure it's all done safely is where you're coming from.
Yeah, safely, as well as I feel like we can refine things a little bit better, right? Because I think right now, um, how Silicon Valley has done in the past in general is like anytime there's a new product or breakthrough or whatever like that, they try to push it out to the market as quickly as possible. It's the whole, um, uh, push it out, and fix all the all the broken parts later, right? Just get it out.
Hmm.
And so I feel like with the new advancements and changes and features have just been in that get it out moment, and I feel like um it is causing us more issues than we should have with these types of tools, especially because of how powerful they are. I think they just need to now get to a point where they come out correctly, right?
Yeah,
More mature. And I think this bill has the opportunity, or not this bill, but this executive order has the opportunity to kind of help that.
sure. I think we know too, it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, the interesting side aspect of this is, right? An AI developer could develop an AI that misleads this group that is meant to oversee this kind of stuff. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah, that's true.
But that is true with almost any industry. So I don't think it deserves a higher point of concern than anything else does. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but let's go into privacy protection here. So this emphasizes the need for bipartisan data privacy legislation, which I think is probably what's going through the House and the Senate right now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Accelerate the development of privacy preserving techniques using AI, and evaluate and strengthen, privacy guidelines for federal agencies regarding AI risks. So that's more of a on the back end kind of a thing to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
everything's in place for both protection and then any sort of like legal issues that come from that. Um, Advancement of equity and civil rights, a part of a broader objective to ensure AI advances equity and civil rights, which I think we can probably take a second to touch on that one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
this is something I saw that was very quick. Again, this would actually align with an example of the fear mongering I see on a lot of mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do remember it being a concern. So it is interesting that's in this executive order that AI analyzes how America um, is more white privilege. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then would continue to reciprocate rather than giving free opportunity or open opportunities to all. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where that comes from.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I would imagine so. I mean, as well as just in general, like um AI, I think there is still kind of a bias in certain ways, especially because of, I mean, in general, right? Any works that we do are going to come from a more biased standpoint. But I will say that um this has the opportunity to kind of help um, take it outside of that and make it and open it up to be a little bit more broader, a little bit more like it's trying to achieve more equitable to different communities other than just one community or whatever like that.
Sure.
You know, I've we've talked about it a couple of times where there has been plenty of issues when it comes to facial recognition, right? AI that is being used in facial recognition cameras, um, that it has been proven that there are that a lot of facial recognition softwares struggle with
Mhm.
identifying uh, and this particular study was black faces as opposed to white faces. It was able to distinguish the difference between white faces a lot more than it did for black faces,
Sure.
and so I think this also can help that, right?
Mm.
Create better policies, better writing of the code, as well as just kind of opening it up for more opportunities for um, people of color to be able to um, really participate more into the development than I think that they have had beforehand, as well as the information that those AIs push out. Um, like you said, is far more equitable to everyone and not just one specific minority group, because it's fishing for or one specific group, because it's kind of catering um, towards the like the perceived majority or whatever.
Right. Well, and I completely agree with everything you said. I was able to find some more information on this particular
Mm-hmm.
one. Um, so first, there are three things here: provide clear guidance to landlords, federal benefit programs, and federal contractors to keep AI algorithms from being used to exacerbate discrimination. Still broad, but I think you can probably see what the intention is there.
Yep.
Um, I don't know how. I get how the benefits programs would use AI, but the others, I'm not. It's so broad. There's so many different ways to
Uh,
do that.
yeah, I know for the when it comes to landlords and stuff like that, there was a relatively recent scandal a few months back about um like real pages. The property management company using an AI to um change how rent prices were. That was one of the problems, is that it was making it to where there was less competition, but then they also found that in that same program that it would be less favorable to um, minority um, individual like people minorities than it would be to say white individuals when it
Sure.
came to pricing and all sorts of other stuff like that, so as well as
God.
like approvals and stuff, so I can really see it there too.
Yeah. No, that's a good catch. I'm glad you added that.
Mm,
It also says here address algorithmic discrimination, which is what you were leaning toward there,
mhm,
through training, technical assistance, and coordination between the Department of Justice and federal civil rights offices on best practices for investigating and prosecuting civil rights violations related to AI. So that's interesting. Having that on the back end too to address that properly. Um, and then ensure fairness the criminal justice system by developing best practices on the use of AI in sentencing, parole and probation, pretrial release and detention, risk assessments, surveillance, crime forecasting, and predictive policing and forensic analysis. Now we're getting into one of John's favorite
mhm,
AI oriented movies, which is not really AI. They were if I remember right, they were like these three aliens that could see the future or something like that. But if we were to
mhm,
transition this from 2002 to now, it would be AI, and that is Minority Report,
mhm,
uh, which is a great film. And what I find interesting about how this is written by the White House, it's written in a way so that it doesn't strike fear into people, because I don't really know how AI would benefit in sentencing, parole, probation, pretrial release, and detention, because we already have judges. I actually, when it comes to the judiciary system,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you have your liberal judges, you have your conservative judges, but what they do is they base it off the precedent of years of what came before them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And so it's not. Of course, we don't always agree with what the decisions are, but they're not necessarily just up there freebasing whatever their final decision is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think what this is really going towards is for that future, right?
Mhm.
um, of where there's a possibility that AI just becomes far more involved in the judicial system than we would expect, right?
Yeah,
So maybe, right, for us, we feel that AI is going to be a little bit more equitable or a little bit more less bias. We'll implement it when it comes to decision making, or at least have it as like a second opinion, like the judge rules this, or before the judge rules it, they get they put in all the information of the case and what happened and stuff like that, and then the AI spits out like a ruling of what it would say,
hmm,
and then the judge can say like, okay, well, based on what the AI says and other stuff, I can see a future where they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to go with what the AI said because that seems to be the most fair um, deal,
sure.
something like that. And so I could see the reason why you would want to have protections on these types of things.
Yeah, you know, it would be interesting if there was an AI analysis either alongside or in place of a jury. You know,
Mm, interesting.
yeah, that'd be an interesting thing. I imagine it wouldn't be in place of, but maybe in addition to. That'd be really interesting to be able to synthesize all of the information that you received during the trial. Um, what would that look like? Some of this stuff, which is very good, but it's I think we're years out from that happening. But it's good that we're ahead of this. It's not reactionary for once. It's
Yeah.
precautionary.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I'll even say that sometimes, in some ways, especially how fast things have been moving lately,
mhm.
honestly, this is probably right on time
Exactly. Well, that's a
because
great point.
yeah, that code that they're writing right now um, is probably already in the process of being written,
Yeah,
being worked on.
yeah. No, that's a great point. I mean, that's probably why it made it in the freaking executive order. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Yeah, and where the minority report relation comes in is the fact that builds up to this: risk assessments, surveillance, crime forecasting, and predictive policing, and forensic analysis. Now, forensic analysis absolutely would benefit from AI, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I mean, if you could go have an analysis of a crime scene and be able to have trajectories of where bullets came from and what gun they were tied to and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
The crime forecasting and predictive policing, that's something that needs protection right off the bat, because
Yeah.
then you do waver into potential, racial issues, to say the least. But to further maybe better explain where my mindset is, Minority Report, the idea was these aliens were able to predict the crimes that would happen before they happened, and so people were getting arrested for stuff they didn't even do.
Mm.
You know,
Hmm.
now I think that that's a dystopian future that maybe we would never reach to an
Hmm.
institutional level. But making sure the protections are in place so we know, I'm very much on board with. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I am as well. I am as well. I think it's super important.
yeah, I agree. So, okay, I'm going to clip through these next few here. Innovation and completion, or innovation competition, promoting innovation and competition in the AI domain with voluntary commitments from 15 leading companies to drive safe and trustworthy AI development. That's great. I don't think you really have to incentivize any competition in this industry right now,
Mm-hmm.
but to incentivize it on a safe level, with 15 companies, I'm sure include Google and Microsoft.
Oh yeah.
That's a great thing. National and economic security, addressing AI threats to national security, economic security, and public health and safety. Development of a national security memorandum to guide the military and intelligence community in safe, ethical, and effective AI use. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should look at real quick. Um, okay, so let's see here. National Security Council and White House Chief of Staff are developing this memorandum. This document will ensure the United States military and intelligence community use AI safely, ethically, and effectively in their missions, and will direct actions to counter adversaries' military use of AI. So here's the thing: that's very broad, right? That's
Oh yeah.
not specific. AI in the military, I would go as far and bold as to say that's probably been used for like 15 years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because why do you say that, John? Well, I say it because we spend yeah, over three times more on our military than China does.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's a
Oh, I mean, even than any other nation, honestly.
well, they're the second closest,
Yeah.
and everyone else pales in comparison to what we spend on our military.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a number of things that we don't even know that we have. And it just wouldn't surprise me if AI was part of that. um, But also, with all that said and all that secrecy, I don't know how you police that for ethical and safe use of AI in the military.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, our Congress is already having a hard time getting, facts about different spending on stuff like that, that
Absolutely.
the DoD does. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things. I mean, even just this, well, I don't need to go down that path. Just the stuff that I've seen our military having a presence around Israel and Gaza right now. You just look at that and you're like, we have nothing to worry about, you
Yeah.
know, from
Mm-hmm.
a security, from our own safety standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Darian chiming in on the comments here. Good to have you on the comments, man. Thank you. He says, in regard to the AI and the judicial system, I can see it causing a rift because AI would end up taking the roles away from the human paralegals. Could
Mm.
be a good thing, but it could go the other way too. Um,
Yeah.
and of course, I don't disagree whatsoever. I do think that taking lawyers out of the courtroom in place of AI, I kind of feel like that would be one of the last things that would happen. Not to say it wouldn't happen. What I mean is, I don't think that'd be the first thing that would change. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, that's just my opinion. But with that said, um, yeah, I don't know. I think right now, yeah, if that were to happen, I'd be like, oh no, like I don't want to be argued for or against by a robot. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But is it working alongside with those things? Is it being replaced by them? I don't know. What do you think, man?
I honestly, I could see it. I could see it. I could see a world, and this may be. I think this is where Darian's also going. Where I could see a world where you know, you always have a right to an attorney, right? But who are you to say that your attorney has to be a human,
Yeah,
right? I mean, I could easily see it to being where like the court appointed attorney is an AI, and then you have to pay like good money for like a real person, or it could be
that
vice versa, you know?
you could. Yeah, I actually really on the first approach you took to it though, I actually really like that idea. Um, that idea that if you are in the court and you can't afford your own attorney,
Hmm.
is their job to give you one. But what if that was an AI instead? I think actually that would equalize the field. You know,
Yeah, could.
uh, it could, right? Well, again, not now, but maybe 5 years, 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I kind of like that idea. But Darian, with all that said, I know we're kind of making our arguments here, and thankfully that's why this executive order is so um, good and timely, is to protect people from misuse of this kind of stuff
Yeah.
if it does get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
But my initial is that AI in legal cases would just be used to analyze evidence. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh,
But I mean, that is a job of a paralegal.
that's true. That's a good point.
That's like one of
So
their
look,
biggest things.
yep, yep. That's a good point. Look, we're on the same page then.
Mm-hmm.
So, so yeah, that's a good point. I think, of course, it will start out with working alongside, and that's the biggest thing. And we both have said this: we don't want to see jobs get stripped from people, especially on the mass level that they could with AI.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to see that. If anything, we want to see work alongside, which I think is the proponent of many pro AI people, is you work with it, not be
Yeah,
replaced by it.
exactly.
So hopefully that can be maintained, because of course we know these are made by businesses that are looking to make money, and you don't make money more than if you replace an entire human with your AI,
Mm-hmm.
um, or at least given in certain situations, probably.
Yeah.
So, um, okay, let's. I got two more here. Um, Consumer and worker protection, coincidentally,
Mm.
establishing standards to protect against AI-enabled fraud and deception, and standing up for consumers and workers affected by AI. Let me double check this one here. So, um, here's what this says from the White House's website. AI is changing America's jobs and workplaces, offering both the promise of improved productivity, but also the increased dangers of workplace surveillance. That's a good point, too. Bias and job displacement. To mitigate these risks, support workers' ability to bargain collectively and enforce and workforce training and development that is accessible to all. The president directs the following actions: develop principles and best practices to mitigate the harms and maximize the benefits of AI for workers by addressing job displacement, labor standards, workplace equity, health and safety, and data collection. These principles and best practices will benefit workers by providing guidance to prevent employers from undercompensating workers, which is something we had talked about before,
Mm-hmm.
um, evaluating job applications unfairly, or on workers' abilities to organize. That is actually kind of the main thing. And I got another bullet point to read off here, but that's kind of the main thing I'm gathering from this
Mm-hmm.
is pro union kind of
Yes.
stuff. Um, and produce a report on AI's potential labor market impacts, and study and identify options for strengthening federal support for workers facing labor disruptions, including from AI. So that's all good, and I think that stuff needs to happen. But maybe it doesn't have to be the United Auto Workers Union. Maybe it doesn't have to be this union. Blah blah blah. Maybe you have one national union that anyone at any organization can be a part of,
Mm-hmm.
that protects from this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even called a union. Maybe it's just a federally mandated protection. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. Because again, I think, you look at it from an outside looking in. You have AI. You already have robots that make cars, right?
Yep.
So you complete the entire production with AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you do that? Of course you could. You pay for it one time, and you don't have salaried workers in there. I mean, financially it would make sense. So there has to be protection against that.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, it just makes too much sense for most businesses.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the last one here, international leadership, advancing American leadership globally in AI safety and security, setting an example for the private sector and governments worldwide. Obviously, just a generic thing to say to be the forefront of this for the world.
Mm-hmm.
But all interesting stuff there, man. And I think that there's a lot of ground that is covered there. I think there will be a lot of ground that has to be developed further. But and I think it explains something we mentioned earlier as to why the House and the Senate are still working on this um, for more detailed bills, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But um, but I think this sets good groundwork. What are your thoughts on all this?
No, I think you're right. I think this sets amazing groundwork for everyone to go forward, and I think it gives us a better opportunity.
To
Oh, pardon
yeah,
me, for
it's
transparency.
it's coming at some
Yeah.
point.
Um, but it's I think it gives us a better opportunity for transparency in AI, because I think one of the biggest things right now is that um most, if I'm not mistaken, well, I shouldn't say most. Some of the AI tools like OpenAI's ChatGPT does a pretty decent job of being relatively open and honest about like their movements and their updates and stuff like that. But I think this bill, or not bill, gosh darn, executive order,
Mhm.
um opens up the door for far more transparency, as well as that pump the brakes moment, right? Of
Yeah.
just being able to create much a far better environment for everybody, right? Because I'm sure, yeah, sure, technically most of these were focused in on government entities, but um
Oh, a double dose.
oh, yeah, sorry, I do apologize, but yeah, I think it just gives a far better opportunity for
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, some of it, as we saw, is already underway to be detailed more, like that memorandum for national security, our legal system, all that kind of stuff, the job stuff. I mean, it's we live in a free country, and so it's not something you can let literally just executive order out. But
yeah.
to pave the way for that legislation to come down, I think is a great idea. And I think it's something that nationally, it has to be the focus right now. It's um, probably not something you're going to hear on the campaign trail between now and a year from roughly a year from now. But you have things like so in Wichita right now. My three biggest things have coincidentally been the focus of the campaigns, which has been great. It's been our economic development. It's been our lack of funding for police, and it's been the homeless community growing, not having the resources available to them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so that's been the focus, and that's been great to hear. This is the stuff that needs to be a focus on a national level, and it's the stuff we need to hear. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So I am glad to hear that. And yeah, I think we had a good discussion on this. I do want to mention because we went longer on this than we expected we would.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make this a quick mention. So talking about the Beatles, I'm not going to play it on here because we'll definitely get the live stream banned.
Yeah.
But they
We'll
have a
get
new song
copyrighted.
out. What'd you say?
I was just saying we'll get copyrighted.
Copyright, man.
Mm-hmm.
Copyright, copyright. So it's called Now and Then. Um, and it's very cool. And the reason I want to bring it up is because of how AI brought this thing to life. And for people that are concerned about AI, they're also concerned about how it will um, impact art and music, right? Those type of
Mm-hmm.
things. And so I think this is important to share because it shows how it can be done with no minimal to none of negative impact.
Yeah.
Um, so back in the 90s, the Beatles released two new songs. based off of demos that John Lennon had that he had written before he was killed. Um, and they finished them, and they're okay, but they didn't have available to them what they have now.
Yep.
Uh, and this one is genuinely a very good song. What John had done, which he basically set one mic um, over a piano, an upright piano, also angling toward his face. So it's getting the piano and the key and his voice at the same time.
Hmm.
What's amazing about what I'm going to tell you guys is the crossover frequencies on piano and vocals. Obviously, depending on where you're playing, but where he was playing, pretty much the same.
Mm.
So, um, early 2022, Peter Jackson directed and I believe even produced this three-piece documentary of the Beatles recording the Let It Be album. And I didn't know this at the time, but he used AI to be able to take everything that was being captured in the room mics of the studio, because not everything was mic'd at the time for recording, but they were just sitting there writing.
Hmm.
And it was able to capture all of it, split it out, and then mix it and yeah, mix it properly. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Uh, and so Paul McCartney hears about this, and they're able to do the same thing with this demo from John Lennon. They split his vocals and the piano separately. So now it's two separate tracks. And when you hear it, you'll probably be amazed by how well it did it. I mean, it's very impressive. Um, and so then Ringo was able to go in and play drums. Paul
Hmm.
McCartney played bass. He added some guitar, I think, and he did vocals and harmonies. And then they even left some guitar parts that George Harrison had done in the 90s before he passed away in '01.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's very cool. And I really, I have this poster behind me. I know. Oop, right there. But I wouldn't say I've been directly impacted by Beatles music
Hmm.
as far as my writing and stuff for a while. So I say all this to you guys not as a fan, even though I am one, but like not as this mega, T Swift type of fan, right?
Hmm.
I say it just out of respect for the craft and what they pulled off, and it really is a beautiful song. And I think what's really cool too, man, is um, they changed the industry. They changed music back in 1964, right?
Hmm.
And almost 60 years later, they're still doing things as they have done sporadically, off and on throughout all that time. They're still doing things that are changing the music industry or leaving a lasting impact. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
it's
It's
very
mind
cool.
blowing. Mind
Mhm.
blowing.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add to that. You definitely can, but I think a lot of people's concerns are like, oh, well, I'm going to hear a new so and so song, but it's not really going to be them. It's going to be AI pretending to be them, right?
Hmm.
And I think what's great about it is the Beatles have just shown how AI can help make good music, but also make it human at the same time. You know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It opens more doors than what people feel like it's closing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And I realize not every musician out there is you know uh, been around. They're not in their 80s and trying to finish a demo they worked on 30 years ago.
Hmm.
But think about I know you and I both love this track on Drake's Scorpion album. Don't Matter to Me. He took a demo that was unfinished by Michael Jackson.
Hmm.
Imagine if they had that technology and use that technology. And there's several, if I remember right, there are several dozen unfinished Michael Jackson tracks that they just couldn't split the files apart to make it a finished track. With
Hmm.
stuff like that, you could, you know?
Yeah, you really could, and it would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of stuff is exciting. I think it's very cool. I just wanted to mention it real quick. So yeah, man. I think we had a good discussion on this. Always great to have people in the comments. Darian, thank you for chiming in. Um, and thanks on the notification gangs as well. Remember, and do remember, we want you to leave a rating review wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. That is the quickest, easiest way to help us continue to grow. Number two, if you're listening to this on audio, jump on the Facebook or YouTube live stream with us and let us know your thoughts in real time or on rewatch as well. We go live every Thursday night. And number three, check out check out our shop is linked wherever you're listening or wherever you're watching right now. We got good, clean catch up podcast merch. So with that said, we're gonna bump out, but I want to bump out with this new track, dude. Not the Beatles track.
All right. All right.
New podcast intro slash outro. I may shorten the intro. I wanted to get your take on it. We'll talk about it after we jump off.
Okay.
But this is not something I did, just to be clear. Um, this is something that we hired somebody to work on, and it is great. So please let me know if you can't hear it. Here we go. You hear that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. No, I'm leaving the intro. That's just, oh. Natural piano there.
Mm-hmm.
And right back to our theme at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Ooh.
Honestly, you guys don't know this, but I have a full stereo setup here. I hadn't actually listened to it through that until right now. It sounded pretty. I hope that sounded half as good for you guys as it did for us. Um, yeah, that's very cool. I actually don't think I'm going to change anything with that. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, I don't think so either. I think it's really, really good. Um,
Yeah.
Perfect, really.
Yeah, I mean, we can adjust our timing as we do because we have a very rhythmic intro that we do because we've had the same intro for so long now. We know exactly how long we have to intro ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but we can change it as needed because, man, it's just such a vibe. The guy did say he was going to give me other drum beats
Mm-hmm.
that would come in, like different options. He hasn't done that yet, but I don't know if he needs to. I love that groove. That groove
Yeah,
is
I
so
really
cool.
do. I really do. Think you
Yeah,
did a really good job.
sweet. So, Darian, like he's 3 thumbs up. Let's go, man. Thank you, thank you, bro. Yeah, we're glad you like it, man. We're and it's not a done deal. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you guys are listening or watching this and you have other thoughts, let us know your thoughts. But I think it's a cool one. I like it. So,
Yeah, I dig it, man.
yeah. So, with all that said, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch up with you next week.